Hello.
Hi, Sana.
Welcome.
ببخشید من یه ذره دیر بودم. I'm sorry.
No,
Back
no,
in
that's
توجه.
okay. Merci, ممنون.
Salah, we're recording the video and I'm focusing on English just so we can also later share it with our community in terms of a financial update on what we plan to do moving forward.
Perfect. Sounds good. Let's go
Okay,
ahead. I'm just
okay,
gonna
perfect.
mute
So I was just giving her a background of what we are, where we came from, and kind of the current challenge we face.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Sounds good. I'll mute myself so that there is no background noise, but you guys continue and I'll jump in if I need to, okay?
Perfect.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Perfect. So yeah, so we started this a couple of years ago. It started pretty small, organically, from us just being friends and going out with our friends and in camping events. And so the finances kind of always came out from my account from the beginning. And that pretty much continued to this point. We recently opened a bank account a few months ago. Once we registered the nonprofit, we also opened a bank account. But we never had like a credit card, for example, because it's a little bit tricky for nonprofits to get credit cards. So still the payments were all over the place. A lot of payments online, obviously, like you have to make credit card payments. So some little transactions actually went through the account, but most of it still didn't. And it still continued going through my account even after we had a bigger round. Where we were able to raise over 100,000 from our community members. So I've been spending the last week or so continuously on the accounting, going through my personal accounts, my Visa, my card statements, going and seeing exactly what happened on this side, and then mapping it, and then making sure that we can have updated accounting, at least from my standpoint. Now that what we're hoping to do at this point is have someone professional come in, help us not only audit my work so that we can make sure someone's double checking what I did, but on top of that, making sure that we have better systems moving forward.
For sure.
Meaning that we just make sure strictly that we put all the money in the company, in the nonprofit's account, and then we just spend it from there, and maybe we can get a Visa for it or something like that. Just put better processes in place to streamline the bookkeeping and the accounting so that hopefully I don't need to do it anymore. And it becomes a lot easier, I guess. I know Salar gave me some background on like the tools you use, you've been working with them, but I'll let you give an introduction of yourself, and then any questions you have, and we can just go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So I've been working with Solar and Hoffice for a couple of years, I guess now, since when was it? 2018, I believe. Yeah, we've been working together. So my background, I'm a CPA, chartered professional accountant. I'm not sure how familiar you are with that. But basically, I started my own company back in 2017, 5 years ago, and we've been focusing on offering bookkeeping services to small businesses. And currently, I have a couple of people on my team, and the company is always growing through basically referrals. For example, you're one of them. And then, so we are specializing in bookkeeping services to small businesses. We provide, like payroll services, sales taxes, regular bookkeeping, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or just catch-up annual work. And we are completely cloud-based, so we don't accept paper, like documents. So everything is done through cloud. If you need to share your documents with us, like you can use, I don't know, like Dropbox, Google Drive, or we can also, like suggest some online platforms for you guys to share your documents. We use QuickBooks Online, which is another cloud, like accounting, basically software, if you call it. So everything is done through cloud, like I said. And then in terms of the frequency of the work, you can decide if you need your numbers done on a quarterly basis. We can do that. We provide you with reports, for example, your balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow statement. If you need the numbers done, like a little bit more frequently on a monthly basis, we can also do that. And then, do you want to know more, or?
No, that was a pretty good overview. I got a good understanding of how you can help us on the bookkeeping and accounting side. are there any questions that you have from me, or?
I do have a lot of questions for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go through them.
Yeah, sounds good. First of all, so you mentioned you've raised $100,000 through community members. Can you just maybe elaborate on that? Maybe let me know, like, do you guys, I'm not too sure how it works. So do you sell tickets or how
Yeah.
does it work?
So we've been selling, basically raising donations through what is known as ticket sales. So people contribute a set amount depending on their role and their engagement, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then we use that funds entirely to fuel the event. Now, every event, one event goes maybe up a little bit, a couple of events go down a little bit, but overall we try to keep it balanced pretty much.
Okay. Yeah.
Recently we had a bigger event where around 50 of us went to Burning Man, and that event generated more interest, and we basically raised additional funds on top of the standard ticket sales that we do. We raised additional donations through what we called co-founder loans. So 15 people gave us a sum of money between $7,500 to $12,500, depending on when they made that commitment, and basically offered them a lifetime access to our community without paying. So in exchange of that, we got some extra additional funds for that. And then we also raised our standard donations when it came to like events and the Burning Man.
Okay.
I think one thing to add is that, again, as Shervin mentioned, these are like community loans. There was a term on these loans that we initially discussed with like the co-founders. We said that, we're going to return the funds in 2 years' time. But recently we've had another discussion that Shervin can also fill you in on, to perhaps like even convert some of those loans into more of a permanent sort of donation towards the company, and obviously like, get like a different perk or additional perks. But that's something that I guess Shervin can kind of like, fill you in a little bit more with the details.
Oh yeah, please. Yeah, please let me know, because it, affects the bookkeeping for sure.
Yeah, for now, it's, I mean, the way we arrange the agreements for those loans is that we made it clear that they're making a one-time donation, that in return, we're going to try to pay back in good faith in 2 years, whenever we're able to do so. So that's the current agreement. I don't know if we want to log it as a donation, or like we see it as a loan. So we see it as an outstanding payment that has to go back. So I guess it's more for now to log it.
Exactly. So if they expected to, if they expect you guys to pay them back, then it's definitely a loan.
Yeah. Even though the terminology of it, we try to make it sound like a donation. So in case they want to have tax write-off benefits, which I'm not sure if they can, but that was something that one of our co-founders brought up. But anyways, it's a loan for now. We have for the next year's fundraising, which we're no longer going to offer a loan. The life path is going to improve in a way that it's going to go on the crypto blockchain, so people can kind of own it and transfer it. So old co-founders would basically have the option to upgrade to that if they want it. But that's something that everyone has to make their own decision. The initial agreements would stand, obviously. And so we're just going to try to account we should account all of that as loans, so we know exactly what's happening and, what's the state of the organization.
Okay, sounds good. So do you have a list of, like from day one when you started, do you have a list of all these, basically, let's call them donations, all these donations received, like the amounts, and also because initially you were using your personal funds, for example, like personal bank accounts, right? Before you actually opened a separate bank account for this. So do you have a list, how were you keeping track of that?
So we call it the Atlas Treasury. It's actually a public document that anyone can access. This is big Excel sheet that we keep track of all the incoming donations per event and all the expenses that we've ever made.
Perfect.
That's kind of the master document that I'm spending a lot of time being up to date with everything that happened, especially with the last Burning Man event. Given the magnitude of donations that we received, and then the funds that we had to invest or spend different things, it was just a lot of
Okay.
transactions that are still being organized. But the idea is that there's different accounting sources for those transactions. Obviously, people in our community, like many people, make spendings and they get reimbursed for those spendings. So that's one source of it.
Yeah.
But also, even from our management side, there's multiple of us that continuously make those spendings, and then we all keep track of the accountings. And it's
Okay,
mostly
perfect.
run based on this good faith idea that we all know each other, we all trust each other.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
would obviously prefer to formalize this whole process so it becomes, more standardized and easier, I guess, for all of us moving
Okay.
forward.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. And then what about your receipts? Are you guys keeping all the receipts? And
These are ad hoc. People a lot of times send me receipts. For example, I was a treasurer who had to pay back, but because we had no real system of tracking them,
okay.
They're around. Some of them are around, not all of them. A lot of people that I trust, they just showed me their credit card statement, and I know that person did that shopping. I know that isn't out, but I don't have the actual receipt, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
But
no, I know you guys, like trust each other, but for the CRA purposes, right? You still need to have those receipts electronically or paper
technically,
copies.
when the accounting for this whole thing started, there wasn't even a company, So from
Yeah.
that we started, we didn't even have an organization. It was just us going camping and hey, let's keep track of finances, So and it's just recently, late last year, that we became a company. Adapting to these standards, I guess it's a process, that we're going through right now. But again, we're not fully there as of now. We have the numbers and we have visibility on exactly what came in and what came out, and everything can be explained. It can be traced. But at the same time, we weren't the most standard. We weren't using the most standard processes. Just because how things started.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we can definitely help you guys get there. So another question.
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt really quickly?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
in terms of the money that is coming in, there's definitely like transactions, like history of transactions, whether if it's on PayPal or e-transfers, because they've all been majority of them have been processed through a website that Shervin put up about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So a lot of them have a log of the incoming transactions, like the donations. The outgoing is the one that is a little bit more tricky, and it's the one that you guys were just discussing. It doesn't really have an entire list of receipts or pictures of them, but I think the incoming is much easier to kind of trace back as opposed to the outgoing. The outgoing I would also be able to kind of.
Yeah, I would even say most of the outgoing is also traceable because
and that spreadsheet you mentioned, right?
In that spreadsheet, I keep track of who paid the transaction, and then I'm the one who usually settles it. But because we know who paid it, and these transactions are, at least on a credit card statement or in the bank statement, to that level we can track. Invoices, not necessarily for all of them, but for almost all of them, we can trace it back to a transaction.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, makes sense. And then when did you register with the CRA?
You mean register as a nonprofit organization?
Yes.
That would have been last year.
October or something like that.
It should have been October last year because they wanted some sort of an insurance for a place that we were renting out. And back then, since there was COVID, there was some sort of a clause where the religious foundations or non-for-profit sort of organizations have the option of throwing events and gatherings. I think that was around the same time as Halloween, so it should have been October time.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can figure out the exact dates, right?
Oh yeah, of course. We have the documents. We have the registration documents and
Perfect.
stuff.
And have you picked a fiscal year end date?
Yeah, it's a standard December 31st.
December 31st. Okay. So now we have, all right. So the first year was December 31st, 2021. Okay.
Yeah, but we didn't do any tax filings for last year because we had.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, exactly. And it's also a little bit different for non-for-profits. I encourage you, I don't know if you guys have worked with an accountant for year end, because there are some basically reports that you guys need to file at year end, and it's a little bit different from the, like normal corporations. So have you guys talked to a tax accountant?
No, this is basically our first steps
Okay.
in standardizing our systems of accounting and filing and taxing, because historically we've never had to deal with that. It was just friends going camping. And then
one thing that's very like Tauban is obviously like helping us out with like bookkeeping and like payroll and the remaining like sort of like tasks, but the taxing, the tax filing is a little bit different. So she's been kind enough to put me in touch with like a couple of her referrals, and I've been working with them. But at this point, like it doesn't matter who does like the tax filings. What matters is that Tauban is gonna like get all the required documents ready, like all the accounts, like all the amounts available to the tax advisor, and they will be going to fill out the taxes for us.
Okay, sounds good. And then when did you open the bank account? You mentioned a few months ago. When was it exactly?
The bank account, I mean, in the treasury, I added the bank statement, which I guess shows Atlas checking account that was open. Let's see. 12th of October, again in October as well.
October.
Around the same time that we registered nonprofit, we also opened, after that, we opened its bank account as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. So obviously there's some catch-up work that needs to be done. Like we have to go back and bring the numbers up to date. But then after that, because if I remember correctly, Solar, you mentioned something about getting the numbers done on a quarterly basis, right? Is that right? Is that what you guys looking
for? So I think so, because again, like, the type of like operations that we run on this end is that it's not like a day-to-day banking operation sort of thing. It's more like event-based. And I'm assuming that, typically we throw about 5 to 6 events in the entire year. So going with a quarterly basis, like, it might make more sense at this point in time. But obviously, as we grow and as we end up doing more events, then maybe that's when we would make a decision to do it on a month-to-month basis.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, but like I mentioned, we have to, like first bring the numbers up to date, and then we can continue to work on the numbers on a quarterly schedule. Okay, all right. Okay, so Solar, you know how it works. First, we need to set up basically the company and the chart of accounts. And I always suggest QuickBooks Online because it's easy to use. It's not too expensive. It's amazing. It has all the features we need. And then I'm going to ask you guys, so what I can do basically is that, let's see, either tomorrow, or if it's not too late in the first week of October, if that's okay with you guys, I'll try my best to send this email to you guys tomorrow, by the end of the day tomorrow. But if not, it'll definitely be sent to you guys in the first week of October if you guys are not in a rush, because next week I'm moving and I'm not going to be, like I'm not fully working. So I'll send you an email. I'll let you know exactly what we need from you guys in order to get started and work on the numbers. I will send you, like a list, and also all the information I need from you guys to set up the chart of accounts and set up your company in QuickBooks Online. And what else? And also for our fees, Solar, you already know this. You've been very, like generous with, like all the referrals. So I will definitely offer you guys the, like the discounted rate that I'm currently offering Solar, and I will list that in my email. And then I will also, for sure. And also, I will also send you some, like timelines, and not like deadlines, but some timelines so that you guys have a better idea of when to expect the numbers to be completed, what the expectations are. And I understand, Solar, I don't believe we ever had a formal bookkeeping agreement together, right?
No, we never did. It was always over a handshake, I think.
Yeah, because like you guys, so we decided working together a couple of years back, but I do have a formal, like bookkeeping contract agreement in place, and I will send it to you guys after that email. If everything looks good, I will send it to you guys to basically sign it, and then we'll go from there. So what else do I need to let you guys know? Yeah, that's about it. Unless you guys have any questions.
I have a quick question, just about like the charts, the charts of accounts. So do we have another session, like say, are we gonna have another session to kind of go over what type of like, you know, transactions do we make? Obviously, they're like assets that we purchase that are like, you know, used over and over again in every event, and there are certain like, you know, expenditures such as grocery, food, that are like, you know, kind of like we spend them, but they're not assets, obviously, right? They're pretty much
Yeah.
like gone.
Mhm.
Do we are we gonna have another session to kind of go over the details of those, or is that something that you will just ask us as the questions come up?
No other session needed for this, but I will definitely ask you guys that, for example, like in that email, I will, or when you guys send me that a spreadsheet, you know, like based on the nature of the transactions, we decide on our end which, you know, like expense category we need to pick to categorize those transactions and record them. And also if we have any questions, obviously we will ask you guys. But thank you for letting me know about those assets, because yes, we do need to know that, because those also need to be recorded. And in my email, probably not in the first email that I send you guys, but in the emails after that, I will definitely ask you guys questions about that.
Perfect.
So yeah, so to answer your question, no other session needed. That's what I think right now, unless I see, okay, there's a lot of questions that we need to, it's easier to basically ask them. So you guys, you know, like it's easier for you guys to explain over a Zoom call or a regular phone call. If not, then everything should be done, you know, like through email. So I will send you guys all of my questions, and then you guys can get back to my questions through the email.
And just one last question. You said that you have some experience with non-for-profits. You've already had a couple of accounts that are non-for-profits. Like, I want to know, like, what is your experience? Like, what are there any benefits specifically to this that we need to know about? Like, are there any perks to being a non-for-profit as opposed to like an incorporated company?
Are there any perks in terms of like saving or?
I mean, like tax breaks, like whatever that may be. Like, I don't even know, like, you know, what differences there are between the two types of companies. But like you mentioned that, you know, you've been working with a couple of non-for-profit accounts.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, if there's anything specifically that you would know of, you know, from the top of your head that we should know about, like, you know, early on.
Well, first of all, because this is a non-for-profit, as I mentioned, you guys don't file a tax return and pay taxes necessarily. You know what I mean? There's just an annual report that you do it through an accountant. But other than that, for you guys, obviously you're not going to be, you know, like you're not going to be charging. I don't believe your services are actually the service that you guys offer. I don't believe it's actually taxable. I'm not too sure about it actually. I need to look into it to see if it's tax exempt. But again, as a non-for-profit, as I mentioned, you guys don't do that, you know, like paying like the, you know, like the taxes like other, you know, like for-profit corporations. You know what I mean? What's that?
Like some other people charge us GST and we but we still qualify to like being exempt of that, or?
Okay, that's a good question. Yes, you are going to pay GST on purchases, but for nonprofits, it's a little bit different because for regular companies, you know, like if you are registered for a GST account, for all the business expenses, if you pay GST on it, you can actually get them back from the government. Basically, when you file your tax return, you get those, we call them ITC. It's basically a credit towards the GST that you collect from your clients or customers and pay to the government, right? But for non-for-profits, it is different, and it depends on the type of services you provide and also the type of non-for-profit you are. But normally the non-for-profits, they can get, especially for the ones that do not charge GST for their services, you can still get that GST amount back you pay on the business expenses, but you can get half of it. So for example, like if you've paid $5 GST on a $100 purchase, you can get that $2.50 back. You know what I mean? As a rebate, they call it a GST rebate. It's a little bit different. We can go over this later. But yes, to answer your question, you can get half of it back.
That's great.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you. That was a great question. And I guess that was very informative. Looking forward to working with you and your first email, and just to improve our accounting and bookkeeping systems.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm also looking forward to it. I will definitely send you that email again by the end of day tomorrow or in the first week of October for sure. Yeah, and then in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, Solar, you have my phone number, you guys have my email address, feel free to reach out. Absolutely. And then, yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Solar. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much, and nice to meet you, Shervin here.
Thank you. Nice to meet you as well. Talk soon.
Yeah, good luck with the move.
Thank you so much. I need luck for sure. Oh yeah, I will send you. I've never done this, but hopefully I can figure it out. I will. Actually, Shervin, can you tell me if there's anything specific I need to do so that I can save the recording and send it to you?
Yeah, so once we, like, it doesn't matter if we're on or we leave, you can just, I guess, stop the recording from your side. Yeah. You just click on it, and then it should ask you to save a file, perhaps. I've never done it either. Okay. But then figure out where the file is saved, and then maybe you can email it to me.
Okay,
just attach it to an email, and I'll be waiting for that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, I'll do that. All right.
Thank you so much again.
Have a good day, guys. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.